Jordan Edwards was a 15-year-old African-American freshman attending a house party but was shot dead by police because of false accusations the police officer made about either the car was going to harm the officer or just drive away. The officer lied about what happened to the police department. The people in the car were simply trying to get out of there and go home safely, but instead the police opened fire and killed young Jordan Edwards. The community is frustrated with the acts the police have taken. They want the violence and excuses to stop and their demands to be met, like having better protocols. This is an example of what communities in our nation have experienced. For this reason is why we need to change our justice system. Just imagine this happening to your younger siblings or your best friend. You will want to do everything to make sure your voice is heard and make sure this does not happen to anyone else, right? This topic personally connects to me because I plan to become a lawyer to prevent people from being wrongfully convicted of their case. The most important thing to me, though, is for children to have a chance to right their wrongs instead of just throwing them in prison for their crime and try to understand why they did it. Throughout this presentation, I will describe some background about this issue at hand. Second, I will examine the impact of this issue it has on children. And last, I will discuss the different organizations that are doing everything they can to fix these problems, with everything they can contribute to support. What is a juvenile? Great question. A juvenile is a minor or any person under the age of 18. The youth being brought into the system can either be wrongfully convicted or face racial discrimination. Many organizations and citizens in our nation are fighting to reform the juvenile justice system. For example, in an article called "The Juvenile Justice System Discriminates Against Minorities," it states authorities in the justice system have given longer sentences to minorities compared to Caucasians. The average jail time for Caucasians is 193 days, African Americans is 254 days, and Hispanics is 305 days. This is an example of racial discrimination within the system. When I first came across these statistics, I was surprised of how much of an impact stereotypes have in our society, and we let it impact our mindsets so much that we end up causing damage. With the racial discrimination that occurs in the justice system, minorities face longer sentences and harsher consequences because of this. This is a major impact on the children involved in the system. Youth today are scared of adults, scared to trust them with what they're going through either at home or at school. So they decide to hide it inside them, which may be worse for them to do. According to an article called "Ex-Cop's Simple Plan to Keep Kids Out of Prison, Don't Arrest Them," a retired deputy named Kevin Bethel changed the Philadelphia Police Department forever. Before, policemen were arresting children at schools for possessing potential weapons like scissors, but only to use them for after-school purposes. He wanted to stop the unnecessary arrests at schools and give the kids the bright future they deserve. He teamed up with all sorts of programs to avoid the arrests at school. After a 6-month period, he was able to build a relationship with the schools, two programs and organizations he was working with. As a result, the children began opening up to the staff at their schools and police officers too. The community changed as a whole, and everyone felt safer in their neighborhoods again. The only problem is that not many other people did what Deputy Kevin Bethel did. We do not have enough people taking a stand and having that motivation to make that change, and it all starts with us after all, right? So do not be afraid to take a stand. Make a difference for the common good. There are multiple organizations that are part of the fight against racial discrimination and bias in the juvenile justice system that offer aid and support for the youth to help them talk about their situations at home or school, or just simply helping them be successful for the future. An example of an organization that does this is the Children's Defense Fund. In this article explaining their organization, they state their fight for children to not have jail time, and they come up with different alternatives for children to have different programs to help them get to a better place. They also discuss the injustice minorities face too. This shows the public wants to understand what these young adults experience are with their past and with the justice system and how it affects them as a person. For this reason, I believe we should join together and prove to the government what they are doing wrong, because do you think they will even acknowledge that without a huge group telling them to think twice about what they're doing? Unless we protest, organize, plan, support, and protect one another to help future victims of the injustice the juvenile justice system gives to minorities. You can make petitions, have rallies in your communities, protest at your state capital. You can do anything you set your mind to on behalf of our beloved country's future. In analyzing the juvenile justice system, it is clear that that system should be reformed because minorities face racial discrimination and bias. As a result, it is destroying the lives of colored youth in our society with their experience of the prejudice in the system. Finally, all sorts of organizations are part of the fight to end the discrimination in the system, preventing the children from being successful and turn their lives around completely. Let us never have another case with racial discrimination involved or bias to stop the potential threat of destroying a child's future. It is important you are involved so then we can finally say we are the land of the free truly. How many people do we have to see die in order for us to open our eyes and finally see what's happening? I opened my eyes and seen the consequences of us not taking a stand sooner. More injustice and death. It is time for all that to end and finally be equal to everyone once again.